Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today's video, we've got some news to discuss primarily about organizations or teams that are getting picked up by organizations. One getting picked up by a zebra, the other one just some more information in particular about the Top Blokes situation. Obviously, we've talked in the past about the fact that they have funding, but not necessarily an organization. We get a little bit more information on that. We also have one of the weirdest roster changes I've ever seen go down as well. All that and more in today's video. What's up, everybody? Lawler here, your insight source for all things Rocket League. Got a couple things to discuss, but before we do that, as always, if you enjoy the content, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications, all that fun stuff, as well as links to everything I'm talking about, description down below. First thing we're going to be talking about today is with Top Blokes. For those that don't know the Top Blokes history, there was a lot of conversation surrounding the fact that they were being picked up and there was going to be an organization and all this kind of stuff, but we weren't exactly sure what the situation was. In a video about a month or two ago, I got to sit and talk, and Rams, their coach, ended up talking about how, and the information that got released was the fact that they do not have technically an organization. They have someone funding them, and that funding then allows them to further support themselves based upon having salaries and everything else, as well as go to events or whatever when that may happen. We found out more information yesterday about who that is. Semper Fortis Esports, if you guys do not know, is the new backing for this team. For those that do not know what Semper Fortis is, that is always strong in Latin, and it is in ownership with Nolan Bushnell. If you guys don't know who Nolan Bushnell is, he's the founder of Atari. So it's a very interesting addition and kind of caught me off guard. Looking at their website, it's a little bit different. It talks about how they're a multi-operational esports org that focuses on gaming technology solutions, brand enhancement, and high-growth team infrastructures, which kind of makes sense with the brand enhancement. Right now, obviously, Top Blokes is still keeping their name. Because Semper Fortis comes in, everybody's like, oh yeah, they're going to be known as Semper Fortis Esports, which is not the case. They are still going to be under the Top Blokes name, and this backing is going to allow them to further develop that. The comparison I've made in the past was to Dota's team, Team Secret, where Team Secret is a very similar situation where the team and the players are the ones that founded that org, and that is the representation that they've had. So I was looking through who actually is all part of Semper Fortis and checked out all their like LinkedIn profiles, and a majority of the people involved have some experience more so in the capital side of things with raising funds, which is ironic enough because the company is raising to aim 2.5 million euros in a fast-growing market for competitive gaming. Obviously, Nolan Bushnell is their kind of founder, CEO, whatever you want to call him. There's also some interesting ones, and primarily all of them have some sort of association in some capacity to GIMA, which is an esports agency that focuses obviously on team growth, brand development, and all that kind of stuff, which I think goes hand in hand with the Top Blokes. Those people are Max Dealey, who is a residential property developer in central London. They've also got Jasem J. Osarin. There's Kevin Soltani, and I'm trying to think if there's anybody else, but it's all over the place, and I personally don't know any of the names other than Nolan Bushnell, obviously because he's one of the OGs when it comes to just gaming in general. But there is a lot of emphasis that they're putting on trying to raise funds and seeing what they can do with it. Again, a lot of similarities to the Dota team, Team Secret, that the players are basically their own organization, and then they have financial backing through investors that allow them to then obviously pay themselves salaries, etc. So keep in mind, a lot of this means that Top Blokes will still be Top Blokes in the RLCS. Semper Fortis is basically the name that is backing them, but they are still staying under the name Top Blokes in Rocket League. That will not be changing. So a little bit more insight and information coming into the Top Blokes situation about who their backing is and what it involves. But they do say in their tweets, obviously, thank you for the support. Let's make some history, blah, blah, blah. And to clear up any confusion, we will still be under the name and branding of Top Blokes. They're excited for the future. So that stuff is all staying the same, but we do have a little bit more insight about where the backing is coming from. Up next, we've got Godsmilla's team that has had some interesting results here and there, and good enough, obviously, for them to get picked up. They have now picked up by BS Plus Competition, and their logo is a zebra. Basically, it looks like a budget Team Liquid, and I mean that in the nicest way. I don't know how I feel about the acronym. It just looks like bullshit plus, which is kind of weird. My brain associates BS to bullshit, so Don't know how well that's going to go. They do pick up Godsmilla, Freaky, Acronic, and Xperia, their coach. And I'm happy for the guys obviously getting picked up and finding some backing. This organization, to provide a little bit of information, is an official BMW Motorsport sim racing team. While looking up some more information on the team, I did pull up their website, which is all in German, and even with a translator, it doesn't really give me much. All of it is basically just focused on the sim racing side of things. It doesn't look like the team has expanded outside of that, and I could be wrong. I got to do a little bit more homework on them, but primarily a lot of emphasis on the sim racing side of things. So them going into another game with cars and stuff does make logical sense, even though we all know Rocket League isn't really a racing game or a sports simulator, even though it kind of is in its own way. It's a very different, unique genre. So BS plus competition, interesting name. Don't know what BS stands for. I mean, I know what I think it stands for, but in this circumstance, I don't know outside of that. So BS competition is what it is referenced to in their name. And congrats, obviously, to the guys. Godsmilla is already having some cheeky fun with it. His new Twitter pic is the logo, obviously, and then the face on top of it. So it's going to be interesting to see how things progress further with the team. Obviously, they do have some backing, but are they going to provide different content or what that is going to happen? Obviously, a new name coming into the scene, and hopefully the guys get treated well. Last but certainly not least, the weirdest roster change, but not change, whatever you want to call it. If you guys haven't seen the news, Stromboli put out a tweet yesterday that they were going to be dropping Kinsey, and it was due to circumstances and things in a disagreement or whatever it may be, and that ended up having him removed from the team literally less than 24 hours later. And this came out at 1:13 a.m. so this was like an immediate turnaround. It felt like within the same day or within the next 12 hours, they said, we'd like to welcome back Kinsey back to Stromboli roster. Excited to see what he can do. With that being said, we're looking for a new coach, which got people thinking, okay, well, what happened with the coach? What's going on there? Their coach, King Cairo, if you guys don't know, used to be one of the coaches for FC Barcelona, and talked about on Barcelona how he wasn't able to implement or do the things he wanted to do due to limitations, and that's why he left. He ended up putting out a tweet saying, quote, in short, Alraz and Shadow informed me that Kinsey used to skip scrims to play other games. FF out of Astro Tourneys, like he did last night, and recently said he's demotivated. I thought my expectations were made clear when I left Barcelona. So it looks like, from what we're trying to piece together, and again, this is just what I'm assuming happened, but it looks like, hey, Kinsey, you're up to doing these things that I don't agree with. We're going to let you go and find someone who wants to grind, who's not demotivated, in my own words, and really wants to put forth the effort, who's not going to forfeit out of tournaments, who's going to want to grind so we can take this team to the next level. Because Stromboli went from going 0-4 in groups and not making out in Regional 1 to dominating in Regional 2 and getting 3-1 and playing some upsets. So that thought was like, okay, things are progressing in a really good way, but Kinsey is a very talented player. It's just a matter of finding that motivating factor. So they ended up saying, hey man, Kinsey, you're gone. After some conversation, they realized, well shoot, Kinsey is really good. And we're willing to put up with it, I guess. So Cairo is going to leave and Kinsey is going to come back. That's what it looks like is happening. So again, I don't really understand the reasoning behind this. I understand from Cairo, and actually a lot of respect to Cairo for kind of standing his ground of realizing that, yes, already there is problems if you have players that are doing these types of things. And yes, it is a little bit of dirty laundry, but at the same time, it makes sense. If I'm Cairo and I already have a player that I'm trying to coach that's like dropping out and forfeiting and wanting to spend time and do stuff in other capacities, I don't know how you can set an expectation of success when the players clearly don't even want to be there themselves. It looks really sloppy. It basically removes all kind of confidence I do have in Stromboli. Obviously, after the performance they had last time, if you're already telling me like, hey man, you're forfeiting tournaments and you don't want to be there, I'll take that with a grain of salt if it is Astros. Even though Astros is good practice, it's not really a tournament that the top tier teams really play in anymore, just because the season is just absolutely brutal. So I can understand maybe wanting the night off, but at the same time, if your two teammates commit, suck it up, man. It's time to play. Overall, really crazy situation going down with Stromboli. I have no idea what is going to happen with this roster moving forward, and apparently either do they if they're going to drop a player and bring them back immediately the next day. So we'll see what happens with them. That is going to do it for today's Rocket League news. A little bit weird, a little bit all over the place. Cool again to see Top Blokes obviously finding some funding and getting some information on that, and other teams getting picked up. We've got a bunch more to cover this week. Some talks obviously about MMR changes and how we feel about that now that we've got some data behind it. and everything else. But again, if you guys would like to stay up to date on all things Rocket League, if you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you next time. Peace.